Hello, we're back with the 7th episode of Road to Superbowl, season number 2, when we will take a look at Tennessee Titans, the team that made a lot of changes in the offseason. So we have a lot to talk about, and I would say this is going to be a really positive episode. So with no further ado, let's dive deep into them. We start with the draft, and we kind of start with the worst, in my opinion. And that's how they handled their first pick in Layton. I don't think I'm alone. That feels like this was a huge overdraft. I had him as like around 20. I would be comfortable with him coming off the board, given that he is a tackle. You know, you can see him like 15, 16, something like that. But number 7 in this draft. No, I'm not buying that. Despite having often one of the best offensive line coaches in the league, in Bill Callahan, father of Brian Callahan, the newly appointed head coach of the Titans, I do not doubt that he had his finger on this draft, right? Like, he clearly picked this guy up. I still, despite having an utmost respect for him, one thing is, I believe that when you have such a special coach like Bill Callahan is, what I would value the most is he takes lesser talent and turns them into great. Here, so essentially, you draft a guy, let's say second round. He is a second round prospect and he makes him play like a first rounder, right? The whole idea for me should be you should not be overdrafting players for this coach because he can turn pretty much anything into the goal, so you should not spend valuable resources. Or if you are spending that, it should be for excellent quality player. For example, if Joe Alt was up there, I would not mind. If they pick Talias Huaga, I would mind definitely less. But JC Latham, I just did not see as this prospect, as obviously Titans view him. I wonder how this draft take will bite me in the ass in the future. I hope it does, honestly, because secretly I've become really a supporter of the Titans because I really like the moves they did in the offseason, things that make a lot of sense. So I hope, Brian Callahan makes JC Latham into top 20 tackle in his rookie season. And I will happily be wrong. But as of right now, I think this is a really bad pick. And pretty much the worst thing that they have done in the offseason. Let's move from that to Devon Sweat. Here, unlike a general public, which I feel like are pretty down in this draft, I'm really okay with it. Because he's a player that I feel like has amazing upside, has a good mentor in Jeffrey Simmons, and you don't need him to perform year one. You have time. Unlike with JC Latham, where he's protecting your most valuable asset in Will Levis, or at least the asset that you want to know who he is. So you need JC Latham to perform right now, and I'm just not sure that he's equipped to. With Devon Sweat, he can start, he probably will start, but if he's bad, you just don't mind. You are not picking him to be good right now. And I really like his potential, so I'm really okay with this draft pick, despite the general, I feel like this was one of probably the most criticized pick for the Titans. It gets better later in the draft for Titans, like from my eyes and from the public's eyes, but it doesn't get anything exceptional. Perhaps besides Jaquan Jackson, whom I am really happy for them to draft, because what he is kind of an older prospect, the guy that doesn't really have an upside that you perhaps would like to see for a player that has an A grade. but he should immediately be an impact with special teams, which this year is going to be really valuable. Second thing, he can be a good backup slot wide receiver as of right now. So you want your goal for the season, and I think Titans were very clear about this. That's why we are getting an offensive-minded young head coach. That's why we are getting weapons. That's why we are boosting up our O-line. We want to know what Will Levis is or what he isn't. We want to know if he can hang up with this division that gets a lot of really interesting young quarterbacks, Trevor Lawrence, CJ Stroud obviously, and Anthony Richardson. We want to know if we can compete in this division with Will Levis, and we want to find out as early as the season. We don't want to give him kind of any excuses. We want to give him the weapons and see who he is. And Jaquan Johnson, for a 6th round pick, he can be immediate impact, though a slight one, right? Jarvis Burnley, Cedric Gay, good picks, nothing really super exciting in terms of value, but really good picks, adequate picks, nothing to write home about. James Williams, Jalen Harrell, nothing way too exciting to say about these two guys. Then let's talk about Brian Callahan, who takes reins from Mike Vrabel. Again, here I'm gonna judge a coach that is responsible for offensive part, then for defensive part. So here I feel like it's head coach Brian Callahan that has his finger on the pulse of this offense. So I'm ranking Brian Callahan as an offensive mind for this team. And for that, his grade is C+. I expect him to outperform his grade eventually, but he comes from Bengals, right? And it's kind of hard to divide the amount of success that they had between how much is Brian Callahan, how much is Joe Burrow, how much is Zach Taylor, right? The story is, it's a lot of Brian Callahan. That's why he actually gets quite a nice grade for, let's say, a rookie head coach. But we will have to wait and see how it translates to a place where you don't have like top 5 QB to operate with. And here you take a look at what he has to work with in terms of weaponry and in terms of offensive line. With weaponry, we are talking about running backs, tight ends, wide receivers, and quarterback. O-line, kind of self-explanatory. When talking about weaponry, we obviously have to start with quarterback room that contains Will Levis and Mason Rudolph. This is easy. It's Will Levis' team. The offseason was made about Will Levis taking out the experience, proven head coach in Mike Vrabel, though his last 25 games were secretly really ugly for the Titans in terms of results. Bottling division year prior and actually finishing up with 7-4 record this season. And replacing him with ascending young offensive-minded head coach that should, in theory, bring the best out of this young QB, especially when he comes with his father, who is absolutely one of the biggest legends as an offensive line coach. So Callahan duo in town. Will Levis, I think he absolutely showed enough last season to deserve this opportunity from the Titans to invest in, cast around him heavily to figure out, is he the guy or is he not the guy? Essentially, I would say there are 3 trajectories for him. One is he has CJ Stroud type of season when after the season we are like, okay, this is our guy, we are rolling with him into the future, we are most likely giving him the next contract. This is clear, let's go. Let's improve other parts of our roster and let's go. Second outcome is sort of Kenny Pickett, Mac Jones type of rookie seasons. Though this is not Will Levis' rookie season, but he didn't have a full-time starting job last year. That's where you are not sure what you have, but you've still seen enough that you want to continue with him. Or it's Sam Howell or Desmond Ridder last year when we were like, okay, we've seen flashes, but this was horrendous, we have to move on. These are three trajectories for Will Levis, and I feel like the approach that the Titans made in this offseason helps them figure this one out really quickly, really effectively, and I really like it. So, Will Levis, you showed very interesting flashes last year with subpar cast. Now the cast around you is better. You have, I would say, better offensive mind next to. Let's go. With Mason Rudolph, he's quality backup. He allows you to not lose games because of him, and that's kind of what you want from your backup. But you hope he's not going to play this year for Titans, because that would mean either Will Levis is injured or he is, Desmond Ridder or somehow of last year. What he has to work with in terms of running backs. So Tony Pollard and Tyjae Spears are there to replace legendary Derrick Henry, who left the Titans after his, I would say, already Hall of Fame tenure with the team to go to the Ravens. So I was kind of hoping for Tyjae Spears to get, let's say, full-time starting full-time starting role. Here he's going to split, I think, with Tony Pollard. But as I went more deep inside of the issue, I figured out, or I learned about Tyjae Spears actually being health concern waiting to happen. His body should not be able to kind of survive several seasons in NFL, so lowering workload on him is, I would say, both smart from the Titans and actually could give him eventually even the second contract that if he went to play his ass off as a full-time starter, bell cow type of running back, he probably would not have. One thing I do not necessarily like about this combination is they are quite similar in terms of what they can do. None of them is like great power rusher. They're more, really good catch options, really like shifty guys, but they like absolute physical power. So when you are changing from one to another, you are maintaining the same thing. But as kind of Dallas learned last year, you can have problem in certain areas of the field. So we will see how the Titans will handle this, let's say, shortcoming of these two guys. But combined, those two of them, they are middle of the pack, running back room, really something you are not worried about. And then towards the wide receivers that Will Levis has to throw to. And this is a nice room. Though, just like with Tony Pollard, I feel like they overpaid Calvin Ridley. And that's fine by me. It's hard to say for me because I'm not happy with no value deals or not even like fair deals, because I feel like Calvin Ridley deal is like very fair to and very friendly to Calvin Ridley, but not as much to the Titans. But it just suits their overall approach about the situation. We want to know if Will Levis is good or bad. And if he is, the 10 millions that we might have saved if we negotiated harder, or if we get the deals right, doesn't matter that much because we have great quarterback on a rookie contract. So perhaps rather than missing on these two guys, you overpay them in order to have your answer quicker and more precise, which at the end of the day, I am up for. Still, I would like you to do a better job negotiating because, I hate overpaying guys, but the process I think is absolutely fine. Calvin Ridley should be this team number 2 behind DeAndre Hopkins. It should be a role that suits him quite nicely. And this room actually makes really a lot of sense. With Tyler Boyd as your number 3, is he going to stay as the number 3 guy, or will he gonna get jumped off by Treylon Burks, Jaquan Johnson, or Nick Westbrook-Ikhine? Remains to be seen. But you essentially have one not elite guy anymore, but still happy with to be your number 1 guy in DeAndre Hopkins. Like, he is still really good player. You have very good number 2 in Calvin Ridley, and you have several body types, several types of player competing for the wide receiver number 3 spot. So is this room exceptional? Is it like Bengals room? Is it like Dolphins room? No, but this room makes total sense, and it's good, and it's absolutely good enough for what you need to know about Will Levis. So that's where the overpaying is not bugging me that much, because it makes sense. In terms of tight ends, that's where maybe you wish you had something better, because Chigozie Okonkwo had kind of weird season, but it got better as soon as Will Levis came behind the center. So you can expect that he's going to be a good player, perhaps not someone with an amazing upside as you might thought after his rookie year, but he should be a serviceable tight end with Josh Weil next to him. It's below average tight end room, but not something that you should be scared to use or absolutely worried about. And that's your weaponry beside the line. Obviously, this is just your skilled players. And like I said, is there anything super special about these groups? No. But everything is just good to find out if Will Levis can play on the highest level. I would say that the ball is in Will Levis's court, or rather in his hand. Then let's take a look at who is going to protect him, and perhaps if we want to make excuses for Will Levis if he has bad season, we can find reasons here, because the offensive line, starting with 2 starting tackles, J.C. Latham and Dylan Radunz, has some issues. You definitely hope that Brian Callahan can work those issues with obviously working with his father Bill, but this is really one of the worst starting tackles duos in the league, and it's a lot to ask for J.C. Latham to come here and be essentially the blind protector for Will Levis in a sort of situation where you count on him to be good. So good luck with that. Hope Bill Callahan can do it, and hope J.C. Latham can do it. But as of right now, this is a problem. And it's not like you have anything special waiting for you in terms of backups. I would say good backup is really rich for Nicolas Petit-Frere. He's really close to being just solid backup, just as Jalen Duncan. There is really, Dylan Radunz and J.C. Latham need to work. I have no faith that if they are not working or they go now injured, these 2 guys can step up and sort of keep Will Levis alive. Then, as we go inside, the talk become much more positive, because Peter Skoronski, last year high draft pick, had really good rookie season, despite that the cast around him was not exceptional by any stretch of imagination. So I think you have really good player to build around their future. And overall, that left side of your offensive lineman, J.C. Latham, Peter Skoronski, up to Lloyd Cushenberry as the center, that's something you want to be your strength in 2 years. For that, Peter Skoronski and J.C. Latham need to develop 2 players that we believe that their potential is. Will it happen? I hope. I actually do believe that it will, but as of right now, they are not anything special. Lloyd Cushenberry is their best offensive lineman, which in case that it is a center, and it's just a good start in my opinion, that really tells you a lot about this offensive line. But I'm super happy that they brought him in. He is experienced, he played his ass off in Denver, he absolutely earned this opportunity, he earned this contract, despite having really tough beginnings of his career. He just keep grinding and absolutely deserved this opportunity. And you kind of hope that he is going to spread the kind of the quality across the line. And also for, let's say, a young, almost a rookie QB, to have stability presence in terms of center, that you expect to play every game. He doesn't really have problems with injuries. Is something that is valuable. The rest of interior is Daniel Brunskill. Really close to just be a good backup at this point. The right side is really not something you like. With Daniel Brunskill and Dylan Adams, they are kind of what they are. They won't get better. And if they both are like decent starters for the whole period of this year, then you're like, okay, we kind of got away with one, because they kind of have no business. No business. You have every expectation in the world that they could be much worse than that as a full-time starters. With Sadiq Charles, again, if this guy plays, something went wrong. He played more than 600 snaps last year. It was not nice. It was obviously for Washington. Just the depth is not here. The quality is not here. The potential for the right side of this line is not here. So good luck, Bill Callahan. And that's where you kind of understand why going for JC Latham is like, I need something to work with, you know. So that's where you can like apologize that pick a little bit more, but I would still say, like, if you really wanted to invest that, why not Ferga? So that's how I view this line. If there is Will Levis looks bad and we are still making excuses for him, this is the reason why, for sure, in my opinion. So let's now switch to the defensive side of the ball, and we start with Dennard Wilson, their new defensive coordinator. D+ is definitely not a grade that anyone aspires to be, but this is his first time, I believe, play calling in NFL in terms of obviously defensive play calling. But yeah, he was never offensive play caller. That one thing can only kind of be said about Matt Patricia, that he kind of did both of these jobs. Okay, let's move from Matt Patricia to Dennard Wilson. He is coming from Baltimore. It's kind of new meta. Jesse Winter, McDonald, Baltimore disciples, guys that are creating simplified version of defensive playbooks that should have answers to everything, allows you to do everything from everything, and is simple. It sounds really, really cool and really nice, doesn't it? Let's find out. Like on paper, and everyone I've heard talking about the system, and we've seen obviously like with Michigan and with Baltimore, how this system implemented into practice looks really, really good. It's really easy to learn for players, and it allows you to do so much. But I would say hold your horses just a little bit before we see that the disciples can actually do it on their own. Before we say, well, this is absolutely the new meta, we should just do to Baltimore what everybody does to Sean McVay. They do, and just, like if you want really good offensive mind, you go to Sean McVay and take a pick from anywhere from his offensive cast. The same should not be true so far for the Baltimore Ravens, unless we see at least some of the guys prove it in different places. Because not everywhere is culture like Baltimore, not everywhere Harbaugh is a head coach, and not everywhere you have actually talent that Ravens have. So don't judge me that I have Dennard Wilson this low. First time play caller, I just need to see it. If his defense and his play calling looks exceptional, I won't be surprised. That's what I'm going to say. And what he has to work with. Also, guys, I wanted to let you know that under the video you will see every note towards explaining what D, L means, what PRU means. So I don't have to explain it for every single video, for every single card, because it changes. Wide receiver have different stats shown, that obviously defensive coordinators and cornerbacks, etc., etc. So you will find the description in comments down below this video. I hope that you appreciate this, rather than me spending every video like 5 to 7 minutes explaining it to you. So Tell me, how do you view this approach? So D-line and secondary is actually looking quite nice. Let's check the players, shall we? So we start in terms of D-line, we start on the edge, and there you have Harold Landry and Aaron Key to be your two main guys. So where to start with these two? You ideally have them as your 2.5s, like you would want them to be slightly better, to be your 2s, but they are not bad 2s, right? But they are missing that one top piece in terms of edge guys. But given what comes with interior, you are not that worried. And both of these guys are kind of who they are. I don't expect them to move up. I don't expect them to slow down. I feel this is what you are going to get, and that's really solid pass rushing duo from the edge that you should not be worried about, but should also not be considered your like exceptional strength. Slight problem comes with the depth in this position, because your probably best depth is Rashid Weaver, who I do not necessarily have a lot of faith. And that's pretty much it. Like rookie Jalen Harrell, yeah, you hope these two guys stay healthy. Other than that, you are actually really looking like 2 tiers, maybe even 3 tiers downgrade with the next guy up. So that could be a big problem for this defense. But should I blame Titans to not address this problem? Absolutely freaking not, because you can only do so much in the offseason. And I feel like their investment going towards Will Levis mostly is absolutely justified, rather than bringing third edge piece when with Aaron Key and Harold Landry you have guys that are absolutely able to play. And you have still some hope with Rashid Weaver and Jalen Harrell. Then we move to interior, and then there's obviously the guy I was talking about in terms of let's wait who awaits inside. Jeffrey Simmons. The tier below guys like Dexter Lawrence, Derek Brown, etc. But really just a tier. This is an amazing player. Definitely the best they have in terms of their defensive line. He can rush the passer, but he can be really great presence in terms of run defense. Without him, we would be looking at huge problem for this D-line. With him, this line is just, I would say, like slightly below average. Though when we give linebackers into the mix, it's just kind of good defensive line. He is accompanied with Sebastian Joseph-Day, who will probably be starting, as well as Devondre Sweat, because just like with edge pieces, they really don't have many guys awaiting in terms of their depth. So I would say this is a static 5, Aaron Key, Harold Landry, Jeffrey Simmons, Sebastian Joseph-Day, and Devondre Sweat. There is some potential in it, but overall these guys pretty much are what they are, with obviously the exception of Devondre Sweat. And what they are is quite good, with one really great piece, some good players around them, so it should allow them to do what they want to do, and it should not be a problem. Then we go to linebacker room, and that's where I wouldn't say they have a huge issue, because I like Jake Gibbons. I am like not secretly a big fan, but I really like his type. I think he plays hard. I think he has potential to emerge as good as like good starter. Going for that impactful starter, maybe not reaching it eventually, but really nice player. And then you accompany this with Kenneth Murray, who was a first rounder a couple of years ago, like 4 or 5. And now you are taking a swing at him, signing him for like, I think he's 1 year type of prove-it deal from the Chargers. Can he show his athleticism? Because there's a lot of good things that, at least from what I understand, he is a leader, he works hard, but he just doesn't show it on the field. Can we see it? Can he finally show it on the table? Was it all yeah, I cannot show it when I have Brandon Staley as my head coach. I mean, most likely not. Most likely he just is a bust as a first downer, and he is just going to get some more chances because of his athleticism. But will I put it beyond the realm of possibility that he actually looks very good, and with Jack Gibbons they make up for decent enough linebacker room? No. And then you have Cedric Gray, who athletic type, exactly where I would be drafting linebackers if they are not like really crazy good. That's the area where you just take a swing at athletic linebacker. Kind of, if Kenneth Murray doesn't work, next year you go with Cedric Gray and you have like the similar body type. With Jay Gibbons, you kind of have that steady presence that should provide you with at least adequate linebacker play, whether you have Kenneth Murray or Cedric Gray next to him. Though this room is definitely not a strength of this team. Where this team has a strength is a secondary, and they've invested in this group quite heavily. Beside weapons for Will Levis, this is where they addressed their money. So, we start with safeties, and they had Amani Hooker or Amari. I just misread it. No, he's Amani. Amani Hooker. Interesting name. Impactful starter to me, not like high tier impactful starter, so he's more like flirting with just a good starter. But definitely a guy that if he's your number one safety, you are absolutely cool with it. And before the start of like the offseason, it was expected that he will be accompanied by Elijah Molden, who is like close to this starter, and they would be like quite a nice safety duo. Not something you write home about, but not something you are terribly worried. But they went kind of like, okay, there is a lot of safeties that have been cut from their teams. Let's take a swing on them. And they started with Jamal Adams, obviously being cut by the Seahawks. Jamal, it just didn't work out. With the Seahawks, it was injuries, it was some inadequate play on the field, especially in terms of coverage. He was just a liability. I hope it was injury riddled. I do like the player. I have nothing bad to say, despite that the trade that we made for him kind of slowed this franchise a lot. So despite that, I have really no hate towards Jamal Adams. I hope he's working for the Titans. And before he was cut from Seahawks, we were flirting with the idea that McDonald could try to rework him into Kyle Hamilton role, kind of positionless wonder, just doing what he does best, and being, because Jamal Adams has some similar traits to Kyle Hamilton, and with McDonald, obviously coming from Ravens and having Kyle Hamilton, we thought, well, that could be the case. But then they cut him and we were like, okay, so we won't see it. But now he comes towards the Titans, where, surprise, surprise, the defensive coordinator is disciple from Mike McDonald's system in the Ravens. So yeah, I'm sorry I needed to check Mike McDonald, because with McDaniels and under McDonald's I just sometimes lose it, despite that this is my head coach. It kind of sucks. Like Mike McDonald, I need to be cool with it. So will we see it here? Because, well, let's face it, they don't have exceptional linebackers, so mixing it, Jamal Adams into that position, playing some safety, some linebackers, perhaps even some like edge, kind of really doing whatever the defense need at that point. I am up to this, and especially because if you sign Jamal Adams because you were like, well, we do not trust Elijah Molden that much, and now we're like, well, if Jamal Adams isn't playing next to Amani Hooker, who is? Well, they signed another Seahawks former player that has been cut in this offseason in Quandre Diggs, who I feel like is a good starter at this point of his career, and he is the guy that I think will surprise a lot of people with how good he is going to be this season, because as I remember his first season after the trade from the Lions, he was kind of bringing the nasty energy. Like, he was pissed about like the compensation that Detroit got for him, that they even let him go. And I feel like he feels the same, even from like his Twitter comments. He feels very similar towards like being released from the Seahawks, towards the state of like safety market, where it's like he even had a tweet like, I'm going to convert to cornerback because obviously they can get paid and we cannot. He comes 1 year, something around 3 millions, 1 year prove a deal, and I really think he's going to play with nasty energy. I don't think he's here to collect any money. I think he's here to show the Seahawks and show the league that they were wrong with him, and they kind of are wrong about the safety position overall. So I would not put it past Quandre Diggs and even Jamal Adams to really have nice seasons. And if that would be the case, that this already is really nicely put together a secondary only by safety room, but it does get maybe even better because they've made a move and traded up for L'Jarius Sneed from the Chiefs. And as I've seen this, I was like, the plan here is, if Phil Levis is the guy, we actually feel like we can compete. I think that this trade kind of says it as well. They really believe in this team because other than that, like, you have some interesting young pieces that you could develop, but you really wanted to take really top guy. You have the money. Let's just bring the top guy here, and they've done just that. Like, L'Jarius Sneed, to me, he's not like the super creme de la creme type of cornerback, but he is immediately after those guys. And having him as your number one, going against Stephon Diggs, against Michael Pittman, against Christian Kirk, he can handle these guys. He can be a shutdown corner. And they kind of took advantage of, well, Chiefs cannot pay everyone. They have to let go of some players, and L'Jarius Sneed was one of the sacrifices that they've made. I think mutually beneficial trade, and one that I'm really up for, because now your whole secondary looks absolutely different with L'Jarius Sneed in the room. Then he kind of brought, head coach Callahan brought Chidobe Awuzie from the Bengals here. With Chidobe, if he stays healthy, he is a good player. You hope he stays, but he comes with injury concerns. And that's where maybe you have slight issues, because behind the starting three, which is completed by Roger McCreary, really nice player. I think he's kind of what he is. I don't see him going up, but I don't see him going down. So you have two founding pieces for this secondary, and in terms of cornerbacks, for sure, for like next 5 years maybe, in L'Jarius Sneed and Roger McCreary. With Chidobe, if he stays healthy, great. If he doesn't, there's a bit of a problem. Trey Avery, Caleb Farley, Jarvis Brownlee, none of them I have huge hopes for. Like, they are decent enough backups. Caleb Farley obviously drafted high, but had super injury concerns. Like, he's already unfortunately on another injury report, so his career might be over before it even started at this point of his NFL career. So you hope these guys stay healthy, and I just hope that maybe Caleb Farley can stay healthy and get some chances if one of these guys goes down, because it feels real sad when you enter a league as highly drafted player and just never get a chance because your body just gives up on you anyway. So I would say we are ending up with very positive note. This secondary has really big promise, and it could secretly, sneakily be top 5 secondary in the league if Quandre Diggs really comes with the chip on the shoulder, as I expect. If Jamal Adams can reach his upside under this coach, and if that happens, I will not be shocked, and the secondary could be a legit strength of this team. So Darren Wilson, you have something to work with. I am waiting. I'm really waiting for like Baltimore Disciples to show it in other parts of the league. Bring it on. So that's where we end our talk about the roster for the Titans, and now let's talk about how I view them for this season and going forward. So, huge fan of this offseason, as I've said countless of times. I feel like for this year, the floor for them is about 5 wins, which sounds real, right? But floor is really where I'm really confident that they will get at least 5 wins. And how would they end up with 5 wins only? So GW obviously gets hurt and they don't have adequate third cornerback. Jamal Adams is kind of non-factor. Will Levis has Desmond Ridder, Sam Howell type of season. And the offensive line just doesn't hold anything together. Like they don't get the upside from JC Latham and Peter Skoronski. In that case, I think 5 wins, they should get to that. But let's remind ourselves they are playing in a really tough division. Like Houston is to a lot of people actually a Super Bowl contender. Jaguars are definitely a team that has like playoff ambitions at least. And boy oh boy, the Colts look scary as well. So in worst case scenario, they can really go 1-5 in this division, and you should not be like super surprised with that. So that's, I think, where their floor is. Let's go about their upside. And I'm not going to say if Levis has CJ Stroud of the season, because that's beyond like 90% confidence interval. That's an outlier. But if he turns out to be like middle of the pack quarterback, I think it's within his realm of possibility to go and be like Russell Wilson, be like, Derek Carr, maybe slightly over Derek Carr, like in this area of players that are not replaceable, like are not being expected to get replaced, but also are not guys you are super happy to have as your quarterback as of right now. So if he's in this tier or slightly above that, the offensive line works its magic with Bill Callahan. I can see them winning 10 games. I can definitely see them winning 10 games. Because they have legit strength in this team. Like this team, it has some holes, for sure. It has some inexperience. And it requires some things to really go right. But I don't think that I've laid out possibilities that are really far-fetched. And with that, I really feel like they could go and win 10 games. Because like obviously their schedule is easier coming from being the worst team in this division. And like in the best case scenario, I definitely can see them winning about 4 games in this division. Kind of beating Jaguars twice, beating Colts once, perhaps beating Texans once, something like that. I'm higher on this team, for sure, than I would say a lot of the people are. Vegas has their over-under at 6.5, so it's kind of my floor should be 4 wins, what they say. And if I want to reach the high upside, it should be 9 wins. So I'm shifted by 1 win that I would say they will reach. But I would say it's more like skewed. I would say the most likely outcomes are within that like 5 to 7 wins. But still within 90% interval, I think the highest can put them up to 10 wins. And I'm excited. I'm really excited, and I might be like super wrong about this team. And the start is going to be really interesting because week 1, they are facing the Bears at their own stadium with all the hype in the world for Caleb Williams. Can they surprise there? I think so. I really think they can surprise there. And they are hosting the Jets and the Green Bay Packers. I know both of the games in which they will be underdogs. Like they will start 3 games being underdogs, or pretty much like first 7 games they will be underdogs. So they can start 0-7 and I will not be shocked. But I would not be shocked if they start 4-3. That's how much kind of trust I have in what they've built in this offseason for the Titans. So this one ends up a bit of a high note. This is a team that I trust more than I would say the rest of the league. And if there is clear, like the plan, it should be let's figure out who Will Levis is. But in the process, if we figure it out really quickly that he's the guy, we actually have pieces that can surprise a lot of teams in this league and make us bang their asses. Dude, I'm thinking about the 10 wins. Can I really see that? Let's have some fun. I can see that. I can see that within our realm of reasonable possibility. So good luck, Titans. Thank you very much for listening. See you with the next one. Bye.